10th is a business owner. And obviously that one label doesn't cover all of the aspects of those individuals, so I broke down that a little bit more. And then within that list, there's 6 people who are retirees or a spouse of a retiree. 4 are park district board members. 3 are business owners, whether current or past business owners. 2 are city council members. 2 are firefighters, and 2 are school board or PTO members. So you're starting to see some of the more influential organizations and in the community, and probably recalling back to that graphic and how those organizations were some of the more central organizations. The other 3 elements of centrality we're going to go over a little more quickly. But first of all, between the centrality, that is the links between different sets of groups. So in this example on the bottom, the orange person is Raphael, and they literally connect the left side with the right side. So if Raphael moves, you no longer have the right side connected with the left side. And that's the importance of that person with the community's network. So obviously they're ranked as the highest between this. And Alice and Aldo are yellow, and they have a strong degree of connections, but if they left, you could still sort of bridge through most of the community. So the nodes that connect or link between sets of people are the betweenness. They have a powerful position in the network. It's a single point of failure. If you take out that person, you will basically sever the social network between the different groups, the tie between the different groups. And these people have a great amount of influence over what happens within the network because of their influence in how they're highly linked. The next aspect is closeness centrality. That relates to the distance between all of their nodes. Again, this is deals with a lot of counting. So if you're looking up in the upper right at Stefan, you literally need to count how many links it takes to connect him to every other person. So you would literally connect from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this person. Then you connect the next person, and then it's 4 or 5 nodes. So you can see how if a person is in the center, it'll take 1 or 2 or 3 connections to get to all of the other people. So they're the highest linked, the people that are more central, that are more closer linked to everyone else. So for instance, from Mary to Stefan, there's lots of links. So Mary's in the upper left, Stefan is in the upper right, and so they have a low degree of closeness. But from Raphael, which is the orange node, to any other link, there's very few links, and so they have a high degree of closeness. And this gives the individuals who are best in this category greater visibility regarding what is going on in the network, and that gives them individual strength. So eigenvalue is a fancy word for a mathematical calculation that I was very glad not to have to do. The computer did it for me. But it has to do with proximity to other highly linked nodes and the individuals that are well linked and how close the individuals are to one another. So Alice and Raphael, the 2 orange ones, are both very highly linked, and they're both very good friends close together. So they're both scoring highest in this. And then up in the upper yellow and the lower yellow, Bob and Frederica, are moderately high in this category. So it's definitely a positional advantage within the network. So clicker question. Which group in your community creates growth and development? Is it A, government, B, business, C, education, D, nonprofits, E, residents, or F, don't know, unsure? Give you all a minute to put in your responses. Does anyone need me to repeat the question or answers?
Or does anyone have any questions regarding this, asking for clarification? Anybody want to take any bets?
All right, if you haven't got your responses, please move some down and we will move forward. Okay. Looks like education is the highest, followed by business. So we've got 10% for government, 27% for business, 31% for education, 11% for nonprofits, 11% percent for residents, and 10% say don't know or unsure.
So I'm curious, just those people who entered education as a primary mechanism for growth and development, in what way do you see education providing that mechanism?
Well, and I don't want to focus too much on just labor force because it certainly provides more in terms of holistic development of the person. But the education is sort of wellspring.
Also, it gets back to the question of issues in terms of even becoming aware of what issues are. I know teaching in classrooms, asking students what issues are important to them in their lives, they're at a loss often. So education can provide the awareness that there are social issues that you need to become involved in and understand some of the complexities of those in terms of your community.
What about the second highest response was business? In what way does business enable growth and development? Any thoughts on that?
I'm from Golden, and first I thought, well, we don't have any businesses and they aren't being proactive, but actually farming is a business and they are our main occupation for Golden. And so they really probably do help foster growth in our community. People move in to even work part-time on farms. And now we have a meat plant and that's agriculture related, so we don't have a school in Golden, so we can't say education is fostering our growth.
Interesting. Great, thank you. Okay, moving on. One thing I wanted to know, I think it's really interesting that nonprofits are so low, because I find that a lot of time I think that is where a lot of change happens, in my opinion. And perhaps it's because, like in your instance, where you didn't have one aspect, maybe there just aren't a lot of nonprofits in your community, so maybe that's why that wasn't linked.
I think if you phrased your question a little differently, you would have gotten nonprofits. Simply because if you think about nonprofits, what's creating growth and development, I think people perhaps might be thinking in terms of jobs and money.
Sure. She had said if we phrase the question differently, and that might have been nonprofits and that's definitely the case. So, we talked about the different aspects for Emerado, the degree centrality, the betweenness, closeness, eigenvalue, and what I did is put all of those together into one chart. This isn't traditionally done, I don't think, but I think it really helps to see how the entities shape up or look across the board. The way that I did this is I took every response and took the top 50 responses. And so if someone didn't score in the top 50 for that category, they didn't make this list. And then what I did is everyone that had a full rank across each of the 4 categories, I basically created that right-hand column, the average rank, where low would be the best. So the lowest rank is 3.5 on average, and then the highest is 14.5. And so you can kind of see the color scale, so that green is the best ranking, and then the reds are the lowest ranking. So you can kind of see how that kind of works across the board. I thought that kind of just helped to sort of see also how the individuals, the categories, for instance, firefighters number 1, former business owners number 2, park commissioners number 3 and 4, city council members number 5, business owners number 6, school board PTO member is number 7, park commissioners number 8, school board PTO member is also number 8 because they tied. You'll notice there's some, like for instance under degree centrality, there's 3 6s, 3 people had 18, and so I gave them all 6s and then started the next number at 7, 8, at number 9, although number 9 didn't rank higher in the other categories, so they didn't make this list. So, organizations creating change. Interestingly, the city council was noted as both creating and preventing change. The park boards were very high on creating change. City administration also had a few responses in each category. Lions Club and Fire Department, PTO, School Board all had responses as well, and 6 people did respond to creating change, 11 preventing change. So again, this is that graphic from before, and you see now I've added a green circle. Those are the entities that are noted as creating change. And so it's interesting, I added the graphic after the fact, so it's interesting that it's really right in the center portion. So, next quicker question. All communities change and must address issues. Who in your community initiates change? The responses possible are A, government, B, business, C, education, D, nonprofits, E, residents, and F, don't know, not sure.
And again, this question is something different, and it's specifically addressing change.
And the previous one addressed growth and development, this one addresses change.
Has anyone responded?
A few more people maybe need to respond. Just a moment more. Okay, moving forward. 20% people say government. Actually, the highest rank is residents. 20% residents are 33%. Government is 20%. Business is 15%. High at 12% for nonprofits, and don't know, not sure, and 8% for education. So interesting that residents come up so highly. So how does this impact the community? How do issues get identified in your community? In Emerado, oftentimes it gets identified at city council or park district meetings. And how do issues get resolved in your community? These all relate to the social network in terms of how things happen. And one thing you can look at is how can the process perhaps be improved? Some ways of working through that is to look at modeling success. Look at the organizations that are successful in your community and model processes after that. In this community, the school board PTO has been successful on a number of projects recently, and so they're a great resource for other entities in the community to learn from. Also, learning from other communities is great as well. So some of the next steps is for any community to just look at how to create better connections, looking for ways to create links outside the communities, create links between groups, and find ways to get new information out and amongst the community members. Questions to consider regarding change making. Who's responsible for making change happen in your community? How can organizations work together to create change? And perhaps maybe more organizations are needed. What are the areas that your community is weakest in, and how can you look to improve that? That pretty much concludes my comments. I'd like to thank the Emerado community, the interviewed individuals especially. I'd like to thank Dr. Racco and the University of North Dakota Center for Community Engagement, and also Sentinel Visualizer FMS Advanced Systems Group for their generous allowing me to use their software.
We will have time later to speak with you some more, but at this time, we would like to invite Ron Cannon for responses to this material and how this fits in with our community of Emerado.
Does anybody have any questions? It's really been an interesting time working with Lisa and working with all of the people from UND. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very challenging, and it's been a really long journey, but we finally got here. And I think all of us from the Park District that will be putting on the lunch later are really happy to see so many people that actually came out to enjoy this day with the community and UND to put this all together for you. It's really kind of interesting when you talk about all of the communities and just the simplest things that you can do to connect with other people. And one of the things that I was thinking about the other day is, I work on the base, and I talk with a lot of people that have come and gone, and it's really funny because in this community, most of us are familiar with farming. And when you drive down the road here, when you drive by most people in the country, you're either gonna get a nod, a finger wave, a full wave, and in our own way, that's a really simple way for us to connect with each other, and you're not even realizing you're doing it. So this is just one more way to bring people together. So we'd like to bring Lana. And we would really like to thank you for everything you have done for our community and trying to pull us together and put it together for us.
Thank you. This has been a fantastic experience for me as well. Not only getting to meet new people, but getting to come out to Emerado. We've come out several times just for a drive. How many people would just go do that? Just go for a drive. If you're interested, there's actually a prose called Land of the White Foreheads that talks about how people in our community wave to each other. And it's a wonderful, humorous prose that interests you at all. I'd like to thank Lisa for her wonderful research and Lana for the opportunity to come up and hear this information, and Rhonda for her wonderful, insightful ideas on connection in our own community. And at this time, does anyone have any questions or comments about the presentation?
If you just stay out west, what I work people coming in from Texas, Oregon, out the community, come into work for 2 weeks and they leave and have no connections. How do you see this change? Like this connection circles. How do you predict that will shift?
So the question is, how would the connection circle change if you have a lot of influx in your community?
Yeah, just say you did this same study, repeated it in like Wells Dickinson, where there's a huge influx of outsiders who they don't have any ties to community because they work 12 hours a week or a day, they sleep and they go to work. How do you see the
Emerado, interestingly, has a lot of transition as well. They've got a lot more people that haven't lived in the community a year ago according to the census than most communities. So you see a little bit of that here, but I think mostly you'd see a lot more of what would represent like the young people in the example that I gave, only probably not very well connected young people. So you would see a diagram where you'd have maybe clusters over here of people that work together or know each other, and clusters over here that don't. No one works together that don't know other clusters, and maybe not so much linkages between the two.
Do we have time for one or two more questions?
I was going to say this earlier with the percentage differences that were along with the school districts for the questions that you provided earlier. Why were the differences so high with one having 33% and then all of a sudden the next question just changing in the growth of the town having 8%? I see that just from coming from where I grew up, a really small town, and moving all the way up to a town that was almost 1,000% increase just in population, where the school is always said as that's where the future is whole, even with the young people, but yet we have a hard time connecting to it. That raises the question of, if schools are also struggling financially wise, why are we not investing in the school basis? Because if we really are the future, but yet we can't communicate, why are we butting heads going, oh, we have to go to the student council? No, we don't have to go to the city government. No, you just have to go straight to the students and say, if there's something wrong in your town, what would you do to increase it or make it better? All you have to do is just go to where your sources are. It even says it in the questions. It shows, 33% are like, well, growth and communication is really going through one spot, but yet you never go there. You always go to the council, you always go to the city, you always go to the government, but yet they're preventing change.
That was my question about issues.
Yeah. But yet no one goes there because they always go, well, we have to go to the big heads first. No, it's just like the government. They go, we're going to bail out the banks. No, you could have just given every man, woman, child money instead, or with the money gone, it was gone to the banks. You always go to the big heads first, but do the opposite way instead.
It's an interesting insight. We have time for one more. I would like to encourage everyone, one of the primary takeaways of this particular presentation is that we need to meet people. So I would encourage you as we proceed on and have a very quick break and a walk around, that you meet new people, shake hands, introduce yourself, and see if you can find faces in this group that you don't already know. Thank you.
So we will see you then. Thank you so much.